How are you guys all doing today? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiege, live today on Thursday, September 5th. After months of just talking about football, we finally get some on our screens tonight. The 2024 regular season will kick off in just a matter of hours, with the Ravens traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs to kick off the season. Of course, we're going to talk about that game. We're going to preview that in one of the upcoming segments on today's show. We're going to start off by talking about Pat Surtain's deal, however, in the first segment, reacting to it and going into further detail on what kind of contract that he got. And later on, we're going to make some more predictions with the divisions, of course, finishing that series up and making my 2024 early playoff predictions for each conference. So a lot of predicting, a lot of projecting in today's episode. Make sure to stick around for the entire show right before leading off to the kickoff game for the NFL. But before we get into our first segment, like we just talked about, with the NFL officially kicking off, I want to hear more than ever what you guys have to say on the topics, what I say, on any games coming up, any predictions you guys want to make. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Your input, your insight is always well received on all of our shows. And now, if you want to make it absolutely sure that your messages get featured on our live shows, make sure to check out the Super Chat feature that we have available to you guys. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your Super Chat. This way, it guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content that you love, and we appreciate it so much every time you guys are able to do that. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking, hit the Super Chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and as exciting as possible. But lastly, if you do prefer the alternative, you are still able to use the tip and donations link, GSMCPodcast.net, to tip and donate and leave any question or comment there if you prefer. We couldn't do this without your amazing support, and we're always so thankful. So make sure to please, again, use the Super Chat feature with any questions or comments that you would want to make during today's show. But now we can finally get into talking about some football, sort of. We have to get into talking about the defense, this defensive contract that Pat Surtain got. This new contract. Yesterday, breaking news, the Denver Broncos came to an agreement with their star defensive back, Pat Surtain, on a new historical 4-year, $96 million contract extension, $24 million per year going Pat Surtain's way, now becoming the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. Also, with $77 million guaranteed to Pat Surtain II, only 24 years old, drafted 9th overall in 2021, a Pro Bowler the last 2 years, and a first-team All-Pro already back in 2022, and only his second year in the NFL. So, very well deserved. Obviously, right, I don't think you can say much more than that. To be expected, I don't know if I would say that at this moment. It's not like it was, brought up in the media, or it was brought up a lot, like they were trying to work this out. It just came out of nowhere. But again, I don't think anybody will have a problem with this. Making him the highest paid defensive back in NFL history is well deserved, obviously, but I would be lying if I said that I wasn't surprised by it, because I didn't think it was going to jump up to 24. And it's funny because we brought up on this show the comment Micah Parsons made on his podcast a few days ago now, where he brought up the idea that wide receivers are getting paid so handsomely, talking 35, 34, well over $30 million for a couple of guys now, and their counterparts, their direct opposite, their direct matchups with defensive backs, some of the best in the league, are only making $21 million per year, $15 million less on average than the top paid wide receivers. And for what all they do for matching up with them one-on-one and being most of the time on islands by themselves, and shutting down a top tier wide receiver as best as they can, a lot of the times they end up losing, right? A lot of the times defensive backs, you always hear it, have to have a short memory, have to just move on to the next play, because it's extremely hard from a physical standpoint, obviously, and staying disciplined if you're in zones or anything like that. I believe they're rivaling quarterbacks for the hardest position in the NFL. That's just my idea. So I did agree with Micah back then when we talked about it, but now, even still, even though I did agree with it, I still approached it with a cautious mindset that anybody else that got extended probably, I was thinking maybe was going to get 21.5 million or at most 22 or 22.5, not jumping up all the way to 24. They're creeping up a little bit on some pass rushers that are making $25 million per year. I want to say some offensive linemen. They're making, or Pat Surtain, I guess just Pat Surtain is making more than some offensive linemen as well. So I think it's just opening the door now, because with him getting paid, now, we're very much in that realm that the next few guys after him, if they're right up there with his level of, ability and defensive prowess and just ability to shut down opposing wide receivers, like someone like Sauce Gardner, they're going to ask for a lot of money and they're next up to get paid. So now we're sort of venturing into that area where it's becoming more acceptable, and it's great. It's great to see defensive backs getting, some more recognition than they already do. AJ Terrell was one of the latest ones to get his extension, and he's only at $20.25 million. And speaking of AJ Terrell, with Pat Surtain now becoming the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, he also becomes the highest paid secondary player currently in the NFL, passing Antoine Winfield's $21.025 million as well. He's the highest paid safety. He obviously surpassed Jair Alexander when he got his deal, but now Pat Surtain jumps over both of them, and he resets the top 5 in terms of defensive backs. You look at Surtain making $24 million per year. Jair Alexander now at second at $21 million. AJ Terrell, like I said, close to $20 million. Denzel Ward also at $20.1 million. And Jalen Ramsey at an even $20 million per year as well. So that's the new top 5. Pat Surtain opening up this door now for guys like I mentioned before. Sauce Gardner is probably in contention right there with Pat Surtain, with being a 1A, 1B corner. A lot of people are split on it. I think in ESPN's polls this year, I think Pat Surtain got the number 1 spot. I could be wrong. Or actually, no, I think it was Pat Surtain. I think it was Pat Surtain, or it was Denzel Ward. I kind of got them mixed up, but it was one of those two. They got the top spot. Sauce Gardner was actually at 3 this year. A little surprising, but with how, it all works out in terms of contracts when you get drafted, Sauce Gardner is now going into the 3rd year of his contract, of his rookie deal. So after this year, he'll be right in that prime window to get extended, heading into the last year of his rookie deal. Obviously still having that 5th year option, but it would benefit the Jets to get this deal done sooner rather than later, now that Pat Surtain has opened up this avenue for corners to start asking for a little bit more now. Now you're not going to have guys asking for no more than 21. Now they're going to venture into 23, 22. Maybe someone resets it. Sauce Gardner could be that at $25 million per year. Who knows? He's on a great trajectory to do that, right? In his first 2 years, making the all-pro team, in his first 2 years in the league. And I don't see a reason why he couldn't do it again. That defense didn't get any worse. If only they got better by association to their offense, right? With Aaron Rodgers there, now it's extremely hard to play from behind in the NFL, obviously, right? You're not allowed to be as aggressive as you'd want to be on defense, right? You always want to get after the quarterback and that way force them into bad situations. But a lot of the times, mainly all their games last year, the Jets had to play from behind, and now their defense has to try and not get blown out or overextend this lead for the opposing team. They're not able to really play to their strengths. And even so, Sauce Gardner made an all-pro team, still one of the best corners in the league. Now with Aaron Rodgers coming back, of course it helps their offense, but defensively, it allows them to hopefully get into positions where they're in front of their opponents. They get the lead, pretty decent lead, and now you can have those pass rushers pin their ears back, get after the quarterback, and Sauce Gardner in man coverage, getting opportunities to actually get the ball thrown to him more often than not this year, I think could give him more of an opportunity now to make another all-pro team be up there, considered one of the best corners in the NFL. And if he does all of that, I know the Jets are in this spot right now, still trying to work out Hassan Reddick's deal. But other than that, I don't see much that could be on their plate heading into next year in terms of contracts. So that should be something that they want to get done as one of their first priorities. And it all has to do with Pat Surtain now resetting the cornerback market. Big impact on the rest of the NFL. But something else to keep in mind just before we move on, like we said before, with the league being a salary cap league, obviously, when one position starts to get paid a little bit more, another position starts to lose out sometimes on some money. If you're now having cornerbacks venture into the $24-25 million range, it could potentially hurt another position. That's just how it all works, pushing and pulling with each position. So I'll be interested to see if that becomes evident over the next, year or two with corners getting extended. But overall, happy for Pat Surtain to get this deal. Regardless of what the Broncos end up being this year, he's not just a cornerstone piece for their defense. He's one of the faces of their entire team, entire franchise already. Sort of restarting, trying to get Bo Nix in here and find success with him, but he's not moving anywhere. The Broncos make sure to lock him down for the foreseeable future. So great decision by the Broncos, good for them, and of course good for Pat Surtain. But now that we have that out of the way, we're going to go into our first break, but when we return, we're going to get into fully talking about the Chiefs and the Ravens game that is set to kick off in about 2 hours from now. We're going to preview the game. I'll give you some key matchups, some key factors I'll be looking out for, and my prediction for who's going to win that game later on. So stay tuned. A lot more to talk about on today's episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.